if convicting alone on the basis of confession is so hard, imagine convicting one person on the confession of a other person, even if he is the co-accused. So the approach to be followed is you have to carry out a weighing exercise. Okay, you have to see, okay, have all of these other pieces of the puzzle come into play. Does this confession of the co-accused fill the gaps? And essentially, is this confession of the co-accused corroborated by the other circumstances? I'm going to use the hypothetical illustration, this is all hypothetical illustration of Karan, Varun and Kangana. Okay, Karan a film director and Varun an actor whose career Karan helped launch are jointly being tried, let us say, for the murder of one Kangana. Karan's confession is recorded in accordance with section 164 subsection 2 of the CRPC, clause 2 of 164 CRPC before a magistrate and is admissible. Okay, it's a judicial confession. Karan's confession is a judicial confession. In that judicial confession, he makes several statements, right? There is a full and free admission of guilt, a voluntary confession. He says, Varun and I killed Kangana. Okay, he goes into greater detail and states that Kangana had insulted him and Varun on a television talk show on July 13th. She called them, he says, the flag bearers of nepotism, and he further states that the only reason they were successful was because of their respective fathers. He states that they hatched a plot to avenge this insult and they went to her home on July 14th. They say that on opening the door, Karan says he stabbed her in a fit of rage in the chest. He then states that Varun used the same knife. He says then Varun used the same knife to slit her throat. Varun has not made any confession and has entered a plea of not guilty. Karan and Varun are tried together. Now remember, section 30 uses the terminology co-accused. What does co-accused mean? They are tried together. So Karan and Varun are tried together. Now, Karan's fingerprints are on the knife, but Varun's fingerprints are not to be found. Kangana's blood was found on Karan's and Varun's shirt. Okay, you don't have Varun's fingerprints on the knife. Okay, right? They take the same knife. Both of them use the same knife. First, Karan says he stabbed her in the chest. Then Varun says he slit her throat. Okay, basically. Okay, so what happens? They say Kangana's blood was found on Karan's shirt. It was also on Varun's shirt, which was seized by the police during investigation. Furthermore, right, in the charge sheet, and then it becomes evident that the CCTV cameras installed in Kangana's home clearly show that Karan and Varun murdered her. The footage also shows that Varun was wearing gloves. Okay, did you follow everything I said? Right, in a situation like this, can the court invoke section 30 of the Indian Evidence Act, which states that the confession of one co-accused may be taken into consideration, right, during the trial of the other co-accused and can be used to convict? Well, it cannot form the sole basis of conviction, right? We already know this from the Nalini case where Justice Wadhwa said as much. Okay, it cannot be the sole basis of the conviction. Here, are they solely relying on the fact of Karan's confession? No, they are relying on blood found on Kangana's shirt. Kangana's blood found on Varun's shirt. They're relying on CCTV cameras. Now, there's a knife which doesn't have Varun's fingerprints, but the CCTV camera shows that Varun was wearing gloves. Okay, so all of this evidence clearly points to the fact that Varun is guilty. Why? Because Karan's confession plays the role of gap filling. Okay, we have, right, a CCTV camera showing them entering the home at the time of the murder. We have on that CCTV camera Varun wearing gloves. That explains why Karan's fingerprints, Karan who was not wearing gloves, are on the murder weapon and Varun's fingerprints are not on the murder weapon. We have Kangana's blood which is on Karan's shirt. We have Kangana's blood which is on Varun's shirt. And then we have Karan's confession. Okay, like they said, the rationale, like said by Justice Wadhwa, the rationale underlying section 30 is the confession, right, of one co-accused to be used against another co-accused is simply this. Look, it should be entitled to some credit because Karan has essentially copped to the offense. Basically, he said, I did it. Okay, he seems to have no real motivation for simply implicating Varun. And even if we did look at the evidence of Varun's culpability is overwhelming. Basically, the evidence pointing to his guilt is overwhelming. Therefore, the court can safely rely on Karan's confession under section 30 of the Indian Evidence Act to fortify the conclusion that Varun murdered Kangana, as both Karan and Varun are being tried jointly.